It's another edition of Hometown Heroes here at WFRE. Thanks to Overhead Doors of Frederick, and I'm really excited. This is a first for me. We have a Park Ranger, Joe Murdoch, with us this morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by. You're a Washington County graduate, 29 years old. So where did you go to high school at?
So I went to South Hagerstown High, graduated in 2014, and worked in Frederick County pretty much ever since.
So what made you get into this career of being a park ranger? And then I also wanted to ask, what is it specifically that you do as a park ranger?
Yeah, so I mean, as you can probably imagine, being a park ranger, I've always been a big outdoorsman. Ever since I was a little kid, I loved, hunting, fishing, hiking. So I just kind of fell into the career naturally. My first year out of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I got a seasonal job at the state parks. And some of those rangers just kind of took me under their wing and taught me different skills like trail maintenance and, customer service. So I just found it was a really good fit because I get to work outdoors and I get to, help people out and teach people.
So being a park ranger, and I'm sure you guys ask this all the time, do you have arrestable powers? I mean, if I'm at Cunningham Falls Park and you see me, littering and things like that, can you write me a ticket? If I don't know, do some damage, can you arrest me?
Yeah, so I mean, I always like to tell people that the biggest difference between us and police officers typically is that it's not enough for me to tell you what you're doing is wrong. I have a responsibility to educate you, to teach you, why what you're doing might be harmful to yourself, to others, or the environment. So we do write citations, tickets. We do have arrest powers, but fortunately, it doesn't come to that. I always tell people treat people how you want to be treated, and believe it or not, 99% of the time, people take that with grace.
I like hearing that. And what is maybe the craziest thing that you have seen being a park ranger?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one. Well, I will tell you there is a National Hike Naked Day, which is not endorsed by us in any way. So if it happens,
so you don't go out there and patrol and say, I want to make sure everybody's moving around.
We keep an eye out. Don't worry.
Or maybe two.
But I didn't know that until one day it happened. And I said, well, this is unusual.
So you allow that in Frederick County?
No.
Hold on a minute. When is this National Hike Naked Day? I need to put this on my calendar. It's like an annual thing?
I think they moved the date around a little bit.
Okay.
I'll have to remember.
So you're not arresting people if they're hiking outside naked?
Well,
or do you just kind of, let them live in all their glory? This is really my favorite interview. So they're hiking around naked, and what do you do?
Well, at that point, I'd probably call the sheriff's office for a little bit of help because probably not the kind of stuff we want to see in our parks.
I'm sorry, I love that. Okay, besides the Hike Naked Day, any other crazy things that you've seen?
That's probably the big one. Probably, we'll deal with the typical stuff like vandalism and stuff, unfortunately, but nothing too out there unexpected.
Okay, what about bears? That scares me. Coming across a bear?
Yeah, we'll see bears from time to time. Yeah, typically, if you're down here closer to the city, you're not going to see them too often. You'll see them up there towards Thermont. You're talking more in the mountain areas, but black bears, they're big babies. It's exactly what they tell you on the TV. Just make yourself loud, shout at them, they'll go running the other way.
This is the time of year where people are so excited because things are warming up, things are drying out, and they're going hiking. But also, isn't this when snakes start to become a little more active? How should somebody look for a snake if they're outside hiking? And how do you tell the difference between something that is poisonous and could be deadly and something that's more of a harmless snake?
Yeah, sure. So, like you said, it's starting to warm up now, and the one big thing about snakes is they like warmth. That's how they generate energy and maintain energy. So, typically, if you're going to see them when you're out hiking out and about, you're typically going to see them in sunny spots in the forest. They might be out there in the middle of the trail sunning themselves. Our two venomous snakes in here, Maryland, are the timber rattlesnake and the copperhead. They're pretty easy to tell apart. They both sort of have a triangular head, and their eyes are slit. They look a little bit different than like a rat snake or a corn snake. Now, I tell people they're just like any other animal. If you leave them alone, they'll leave you alone. Biggest thing is just to be aware of your surroundings. Make sure you're looking where you're stepping. Don't go sticking your hand in any caves or anything like that.
That would not be good. And on a serious note, and somebody could be watching this, and it could really save their life. What do you do if you get bit by one of those snakes? On movies we've seen, you need to cut that part, kind of like suck out the venom, put a tourniquet in it or on that general area, what kind of first aid can you give yourself? Or if you're with somebody and they get bit by a snake and you know it's poisonous?
Well, so I always like to tell people that it's not quite as, we'll say, exciting as they say on TV. I mean, the biggest thing, regardless of what you're doing, is always have a plan. Make sure people know where you are. Because if you're somebody that maybe you have some other underlying medical conditions or something, snake bite might affect somebody different if they've got a weak heart or something. So just number one, let people know where you're going when you're planning on being back. Biggest thing is don't suck out the venom. That's kind of a
they show that on TV all the time. So don't suck out the venom. Okay.
Yeah. Well, because you've got to figure it's gonna, where's it going from? If you're sucking it out, it's going right in your mouth, right?
Yeah. Good point.
So. Treat it like most other wounds. Bandage is pretty good, and ideally, like I said, make sure somebody knows where you are. Carry a cell phone, even if you don't have service. Try and get yourself to a position where you can call for help or let somebody know that you need help.
What do you like best about your job? I would imagine it's exciting. You're outside, you're in nature, you get to deal generally with nice people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, probably the biggest part about my job is just. I know it's going to sound corny, but I like to help people. I like that people can come to our parks and feel like that they're being listened to, feel like that we're making a conscious effort to make sure that their trip was enjoyable. We do a lot of community outreach stuff. It's starting in May. Typically, we'll do a free family program every Friday night where families can come to our parks and do a different nature program, like a night hike looking for owls, or maybe make their own fishing lures. So I really like that stuff that lets me engage the community and kind of teach people about the outdoors.
Because you're a park ranger, are you going to be always stationed in one area, or could you get moved to like the Eastern Shore?
That's a great question. So there are some park rangers where they're only stationed at one place, and a lot of times it's personal choice. They might just be like, I really like this park, and there's no reason for me to leave, so I'm going to stay here until I retire. But you'll get some folks who will move around. I know a lot of folks who move up and down Maryland. I know folks in the National Park Service who move all over the country. Here in Frederick County, we kind of just go from place to place. So, some weeks I'll be working more in the Thurmont area. Sometimes I'll be working closer to Brunswick. We kind of like to jump around a lot to make sure different areas are being covered.
And before you became a park ranger, did you have to do an academy special training for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, so it's a little different with different states and different areas. For us, we have to go to the Special Police Officers Academy to get our Special Police Officers commission. We also do things like water rescue training. A lot of our park rangers are EMTs or EMRs. We also do stuff like search and rescue training. We teach hunter safety, so we're range safety instructors. So I always tell people, if you want to be a ranger, there's no such thing as too much training. The best part about the job is it's kind of 4 or 5 jobs rolled into one, so you kind of got to be prepared for that.
I think that is wonderful, and I appreciate you coming on today with us. If somebody wants more information and they may want to follow in your footsteps to be a park ranger, how can they get going in that direction?
Honestly, I would say the best way to do that is just reach out to a park ranger and ask. I always tell people, if you're interested about the job or just you're curious about what we actually do, just ask us. The way I became a park ranger is by talking to park rangers who are older than me and looking to them for guidance or information. Where did you guys go to school? Do you think this training helped if you're getting a full-time job? I love the job, and I just love to talk to people, talk shop with people. So
thank you so much for being our hometown hero on Overhead Doors of Frederick on WFRE.